Deeptika Laurent is with me on the set to take a look at what the papers have been saying today. Hi, Deepti.
Hi, Jeannie.
You're going to start with reactions to that new state law passed in Alabama that outlaws abortion even in cases of rape and incest.
That law passed by the Senate and then signed overnight by the Alabama governor, Kay Ivey, is the most restrictive anti-abortion law in the U.S. now. Doctors performing abortions will be criminally responsible and could face up to 99 years in prison. The law really seen as a stepping stone to challenging the Supreme Court's Roe versus Wade decision that gave women the right to abortion in the first place. Online, the backlash has been swift. Jeannie, actress Busy Phillips has asked her Twitter followers to share their abortion stories under the hashtag #YouKnowMe, and it's really trending. And the stories are harrowing. I mean, women talk about having to get abortions after falling pregnant through date rapes, through abusive relationships, and some even talking about having to get back alley abortions, which could now become a reality in Alabama.
There's also been a lot of reaction from political cartoonists to this.
That's right. Let's show you one from Ann Tilness from the Washington Post. It's a really poignant cartoon here. She says Alabama's law has prompted her to issue a travel advisory for women, because indeed it's not just Alabama, but other states in the U.S. that are going ahead with these very strict anti-abortion laws. Georgia's inserting itself in women's private lives. Ohio is a state where women are second-class citizens, and Alabama is a hellhole state, she says now. For another cartoonist, Tom Tolles, Alabama has been rebranded the back alley state with this new law. It'll force women, as we mentioned, to abort illegally and incognito, which could obviously be a huge risk to a woman's personal health.
Next now, the British tabloid The Daily Mail is featuring science and medicine on its front page.
For a change, that's right, something serious. It's what the Daily Mail is heralding as the new dawn in the fight against cancer. So currently, cancer cells are treated through chemotherapy, and chemotherapy basically cause cancer cells, the ones that react to it, to die. But the ones that don't die through chemotherapy end up surviving, and then these cells linger, they multiply and mutate, which is why you get recurrent cancers. Now, under this new treatment, British doctors will be conducting what they call evolutionary herding. So they'll basically rounding up all the cancer cells, flanking them, and with a cocktail of drugs targeting the less resistant ones and the more resistant ones. The idea being eventually that they could either eradicate the tumor altogether or reduce it to a manageable size and make cancer a mere chronic condition and not deadly disease.
Staying with the Daily Mail now, it's reporting on this plan from the French government to kick off this international competition to rebuild Notre Dame Cathedral that was destroyed in the fire.
That's right. Ever since that fire last month, the suggestions have been abounding about what we should do with Notre Dame. How should we rebuild it? The government will soon be launching that international competition to accept suggestions on how to rebuild Notre Dame. We've been getting some pretty out there suggestions. One Swedish architectural firm has put forward this idea, replacing the spire with a hipster rooftop pool. It's one of the more modern ideas that are sure to draw the ire of purists who say that Notre Dame should be rebuilt in the traditional spirit in which it was rebuilt so many years ago.
That does look fun. I don't know about that long term. All right, Libération now, the French paper, is looking at the gender composition of French embassies.
It's really interesting, this article, Jeannie. The left-leaning Libération notes that 64 French embassies will be changing ambassadors this year. Last year, only 26% of ambassadors were women. It's expected to go up to 30% this year, but it's still less than the 40% imposed by French law on first-time nominees of French ambassadors. Women are still being sidelined, that's what Libération says, and ultimately they say the typical portrait of a French ambassador is white, male, around 55 years old, and coming from France's elite political institutions. The paper obviously wants some changes now.
All right, staying with the embassy theme, you found a story about where Americans, U.S. citizens, should go if ever they're in trouble in Austria.
That's right, Jeannie. This one's for you. If ever you find yourself, maybe you've lost your passport. I hope this doesn't happen. But if something happens and you're lost and you can't get a hold of the U.S. Embassy, you can now head to a McDonald's in Austria. The fast food giant has signed an agreement to offer consular support if Americans can't get a hold of embassies or consulates in Austria. The Golden Arches will not, thankfully, issue new passports. They'll just help you reach that 24/7 hotline number to eventually start that process. So instead of fries and a Coke with your order, you'll get now a bit of consular support with your burger.
Hey, why not? Every little bit helps. Okay, let's end on something far less traditional. Jack Ma, who's the founder of Alibaba, has been giving his advice to finding a good work-life balance.
That's right. Jack Ma, the billionaire, has no doubt conquered the business world and advocated earlier the 996 rule to success. He says to be happy we should work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. He said it worked for him. He called it a huge bliss. I think here in France it would be called torture. But recently, to build on that guide to happiness, he spoke of the 669 rule. He said we should also be having sex 6 times a week. The 9 referring to the Mandarin word for long. So basically, he says we should be having enduring sex 6 times a week.
And working.
And working 6 days a week from 9 to 9. I don't know where he thinks we're going to have the time to be this active, but it sounds pretty exhausting just listening to that.
I agree. Dipti, thank you for that. Dipti Laurent there with that look at the papers today. Don't forget, you can always get a closer look at the press review on our website. That address is france24.com.